Tonight, you'll probably flip on a light without thinking about it. A single switch, and darkness disappears. But for nearly all of human existence, there was no switch. When the sun went down, the world changed completely. No streetlights, no lamps, no glowing screens, just darkness. And for hundreds of thousands of years, every human being who ever lived spent nearly half their life inside that darkness. So what did they do? Did they simply go to sleep? Or was the night something far more important than we've been led to believe? The answer reveals a forgotten part of human life that vanished only recently. To understand the ancient night, we have to start with one invention that transformed our species forever: fire. Long before cities, agriculture, or writing, our ancestors learned how to control flames. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans were using fire hundreds of thousands of years ago, possibly even earlier. And once fire entered human life, the day became longer. Before fire, sunset meant retreat. Most animals settle down when darkness arrives, and early humans were no exception. Moving through the night was dangerous. Predators could see, smell, and hear far better than we could. Darkness belonged to them. But a fire changed everything. Suddenly there was a small circle of safety, a place where predators hesitated to approach, a place where people could stay awake after sunset. For the first time, humans had extra hours. And those hours may have changed the course of civilization. Anthropologists studying traditional hunter-gatherer societies noticed something fascinating. The conversations people had during daylight were mostly practical: food, hunting, gathering, work, planning, the business of survival. But after dark, around the fire, the conversations became completely different. People told stories. They shared myths. They laughed. They talked about distant places and imagined worlds. The campfire became humanity's first theater, its first classroom, its first social network. Around those flames, knowledge could be passed from one generation to the next. Not through books, not through schools, through stories. And stories may have been one of the most powerful technologies humans ever invented. But storytelling wasn't the only thing that made ancient nights different from ours. Sleep itself was different. Very different. Today, most people assume a healthy night means sleeping straight through for 7 or 8 hours. Yet historical records suggest that wasn't always normal. For centuries, people described something called first sleep and second sleep. These references appear in diaries, letters, medical texts, court records, and literature across Europe and beyond. The pattern was surprisingly consistent. People would fall asleep shortly after dark. Several hours later, they would wake up naturally. Not because something was wrong, because that was simply part of the night. They might spend an hour or two awake before returning to bed and entering a second period of sleep. This wasn't considered unusual. It was ordinary life. The hours between those two sleeps were often treated as valuable time. Some people prayed, some reflected on dreams, others talked quietly with family members. A few used the time to read, write, or simply think. Imagine that. A period of complete stillness, no notifications, no emails, no entertainment demanding your attention, just silence and your own thoughts. It's possible that generations of humans experienced a mental state during these nighttime hours that most of us rarely encounter today. In the 1990s, researchers became curious about this forgotten sleep pattern. What would happen if modern people lived without artificial light? In one famous experiment, volunteers spent weeks experiencing long periods of darkness each night. Something remarkable happened. Without televisions, phones, or electric lighting extending the day, their sleep gradually reorganized itself. Many naturally began sleeping in two separate phases. They would sleep, wake quietly in the middle of the night, and then fall asleep again. The pattern appeared without anyone instructing them to do it, as if an ancient rhythm had been waiting beneath modern habits all along. Then came the invention that changed everything: artificial light. First came better candles, then oil lamps, then gaslighting. Cities slowly became brighter, streets became safer, night became easier to navigate, and finally electric lighting arrived. For the first time in history, humans could push back darkness almost completely. The benefits were enormous. Work could continue after sunset, travel became safer, productivity increased. Entire cities stayed awake long after dark. But every gain comes with a trade-off. Human biology evolved under a predictable cycle: bright days, dark nights. For hundreds of thousands of years, that pattern rarely changed. Today, however, many people remain surrounded by artificial light for hours after sunset. Our brains interpret light as a signal. When darkness arrives, the body prepares for sleep. When bright light appears, the body shifts toward wakefulness. Modern technology allows us to override those signals almost indefinitely. The result is a lifestyle unlike anything our ancestors experienced. And perhaps the biggest change isn't simply that we stay awake longer, it's that we no longer experience true darkness. Most people today have never seen the night sky the way their ancestors saw it. The stars once dominated the heavens. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a river of light. Night wasn't empty, it was alive, mysterious, sacred, and deeply woven into human culture. For most of human history, darkness wasn't a brief inconvenience between episodes of entertainment. It was half of life. A time for stories, a time for reflection, a time for community, a time for dreams. The firelight conversations of our ancestors helped shape culture. Their nights shaped their sleep. Their darkness shaped their understanding of the world. Today, with a single switch, we can erase the night. But perhaps in doing so, we also lost something difficult to measure, a forgotten rhythm. A quieter state of mind, and a connection to the way humans lived for thousands upon thousands of generations. The next time you turn off the lights and lie awake in the dark, remember, for most of human history, that darkness wasn't unusual. It was home.